It's that time again. Get up, get off the couch, and tackle your to-do list. On today's episode, we're going to teach you how to install aluminum soffit and fascia. Load the truck, ladders, tools, all materials. And don't forget the coffee maker. Let's go. Love home reno? Don't change the channel. I am your host, Bob Assadourian. This is the home improvement show which will motivate you to always get up, get off the couch, and tackle that never-ending to-do list. And on the flip side, if for whatever reason, lack of time, lack of motivation, maybe the ladder is not tall enough to reach the second story eaves troughs, we are going to always demystify home improvements. Once you have the knowledge and you're empowered with it, you'll have a very, very good time with the right contractor for you and your home because you're going to be educated. No contractor is going to pull the wool over your eyes. Now, let's reflect back for a moment. Earlier this season, we received the viewer's email regarding, I believe they had the roof replaced, and in order to maintain warranty, the roofers were strongly suggesting that the wooden soffit be removed, again, in order to let this time air into the attic, create a convection, pull out the heat, and dissipate it out the roof vents. So this homeowner was involved with everything at the time. We had a real fun time on that episode. We taught you demolition, how to get your eaves troughs off, cut them off if you have to, if they won't pry off the aluminum fascia, pry off the aluminum soffit, and then the difficult part, very difficult depending on the size of your home. All of the boards must be ripped off. There's a lot of work, and it's working at heights at times, sometimes 1 story, sometimes 2 stories. So quite the job. We just literally finished up with the disposal bin. It's very, very important that you understand what your limitations are and what your hopes are and what you and your family can successfully do yourselves. Disposal bin in, loading all the garbage, disposal bin out. We're on the next stage now. Remember, I touched on a little bit of that email where I believe the homeowner, her husband, wanted to tackle it with a few of his friends, maybe over some beers. So trust me in my experience, because we just finished this job recently, and it was very exhausting, very physical strain, great physical strain in doing that work. So there's possibilities here. Maybe you and the friends do the demolition. You're going to save money. Reinvest that money back into your home. Once the demolition's done, maybe you've got some carpentry skills. No problem. You only have to reinstall solid wood fascia. You leave the underside of the soffit empty. You need to install all the new wood fascia, and then you're going to get to the point of today's episode where we're going to teach you how to cap it with maintenance-free aluminum. Now, at that point, if you don't have fabrication skills and experience with aluminum, you may be ruining your home. That's not a bad time to step back, find somebody that specializes in aluminum work, make sure they're licensed, make sure they've studied the Ontario Building Code, get them in there to finish it up. Because when it's all said and done, nobody's going to see the woodwork. No one's going to know how well it was done or not. I mean, you should do it while it's your home. But the beauty is in the corners, the bends, the folds, and the final capping. So again, back in the day, back some time ago, there was no such thing as aluminum, either in rolls or prefabricated. It's an amazing material. Baked on factory coat of paint, thin, rust-proof. It can stay up there for decades and decades without needing any maintenance at all. We've got a really quick question to get at before we kick it off. This was a call that came in yesterday. Wonderful lady. She had an issue with mold in her home's cold cellar. So some Hamilton homes have a room underneath the front porch. called a cold cellar. So, I mean, there's potential issues here. But from what the lady discussed with me, it's a relatively new build, 6-year-old Hamilton home, should not be having these problems. She's having all kind of mold and issues in there. Now, from what she described to me, there's one vent only. So picture this. It's a rectangle, nice wide rectangle. You can fit about 2 or 3 chairs there. So it's a decent size. Her hole for ventilation is on the left. That's it. What are we missing here? Inhale, exhale. She has an issue with not having a vent on the right side. Now, I even recommend at times 2 vents on the left, 2 vents on the right. You must have air get in, pull out the moisture, create a convection, and out the other side. So we've talked about this on past programs in relation to your home's attic. A lot of the same principles apply. Now, easy one for the Just Ask Bob database. We have an episode, we did a very similar job with boring a 3.5 inch hole with the Hilti saw right through the foundation, and we installed the vents. So you'll see it on your screen now. Obviously, use the QR code and learn your own way, at your own pace. Pause, fast forward, rewind, and you'll take all of it in. Up next after break, we're on location at our job site. Welcome to our job site.
Thank you, Bob.
We're proud and we're honored to have Don Wood Contractor back on our job site. He's our specialist, our master of aluminum. We may be good with the woodwork. He makes it look beautiful, truly beautiful. I'll get out of the way so you can do a complete tour of the trailer and show us some of the cuts.
Okay. Well, we're going to make a piece of fascia board. The coils come 24 inches wide. So you got it pre-cut. I usually make them 9 feet long because it's easy to handle, and the brake doesn't take too much heavier. So we've already pre-measured the fascia board, so we know what sizes. So you just make the pencil marks on it.
Don, I noticed that whole shelf, that whole tabletop's coated, and that's carpeting?
Yeah, it's an outdoor AstroTurf.
The reason being?
Well, the aluminum I get is painted both sides. This way it doesn't get scratched.
Nice. A tradesman that actually cares about producing a scratch-free installation.
Well, that saves my material.
Very nice.
And once it's all marked, we slide it into the brake.
It's a beautiful aluminum brake.
This is the part that matters when you're cutting it.
So even a homeowner renting that piece of equipment, if they don't have the trade knowledge and the experience, you're not going to do much with the machine, are you?
No. And then we take the cutter.
Slide it right across.
And that cuts it to width. Set that over there for another one. Then we start bending.
Very nice.
I like to give it a little 1/2 inch safety bend here because that stiffens it up a little bit and doesn't really show the ripple.
And it takes away the sharp edge.
Yeah. Bend it up. Nice thing about this brake is you can do the safety edge. And just do the return for the fascia board.
Oh, this is the 1.5 or 1.25 edge that supports the soffit.
Yeah, and covers up your screws.
Covers up the screw fasteners.
And there's your piece of fascia board.
Very nice. Let's get at it.
Okay.
All right, Don, what's the first step now? That's the J-mold?
This is the J-mold that holds the back end of the soffit tight to the house.
Against the building, okay.
This one we don't really have to level because we're just going to the mortar joints. Just trying to keep that nice and level. That's the J-mold installed. And then we've already pre-cut the soffit to the size we want. Then the soffit just tucks into here, and then that's what holds the soffit in place. And then a couple screws on the front edge.
Into the new wood fascia.
The new fascia board.
What happens when the wood fascia is so rotted that it won't even accept the screw?
Then you had to have replaced the fascia board in the first place.
Okay, it makes sense. On this job, we got all new fascia. I mean, when it's rotted, it's not going to hold it well.
No, and then you got nothing to hold the aluminum fascia board or the eave trough to. Everybody's probably seen the eave trough that's half fallen off a house.
Oh, yes.
The odds are that's because the fascia board's rotted.
Now, I see we're using fully ventilated soffit.
Yes?
Create a nice draw of air into the attic.
Yes, as long as you got enough roof vents to accommodate it as well.
Yeah, the exhale effect. Yeah. Breathe in, breathe out.
So that's that part. Now we'll just continue on with J-mold.
Now, obviously, Don, century-old homes, before aluminum soffit and fascia existed, everything was simply wood.
Yeah. Now, I know some contractors just bring the J-mold right straight across.
Okay.
But I like to bring mine in a 45-degree angle.
So it's got some support in the corner.
Well, it just looks a little more professional.
Yeah, it's a nice look.
Yeah. And it doesn't really take that much more material.
So I guess the biggest advantage is the aluminum's completely maintenance-free.
Well, maintenance-free, and you got plenty of ventilation as well.
Yeah, full ventilation, and it's a nice look. Back in the day of painting all your woodwork, homeowners would have to go up every so many years and scrape the peeling paint.
Yes, because with the old wood soffit, you might have like a 4x12 vent in every 3 or 4 feet. And this is where it gets tricky.
You got to make your mark for the angle.
Yeah, inside and outside. And hope you get it right the first time.
With all your experience, I'm very certain you get it right most times the first time.
Until you have to be on camera. Well, there's that piece.
Beautiful.
And that's the soffit. Then we'll put on some fascia board. Now we already pre-bent this in the trailer.
How wide is the bend at the bottom? Looks like 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches.
I made these 1.5 inches.
Just enough to hide the cut edge of the soffit and hold it.
Yeah,
Although it is screwed in, this also gives it some support.
yeah.
It's also very important for this aluminum fascia to tuck just under the roof strip edge,
Yeah,
so your water is diverted and precisely guided into the eaves trough.
just so we go up maybe a quarter, eighth of an inch.
Okay.
And then for now, we just put 2 or 3 nails in it to hold it in place.
Now what's the...
And then once we put the eave trough on, the hangers and trough will hold it in place all the way.
Okay, so that's why the nails are centered.
Yeah, center that way when the trough goes on,
It hides them.
you won't see them ever again.
Smart, very smart.
And that's the fascia board.
Very nice. All right, Don, we're turning the corner now. Wall number 2.
Yeah,
Same thing, start off with the J mold, right?
started out with the J mold on the wall,
Excellent.
just like we did the other side.
Don, viewers are always asking me with their emails and their questions about the husbands wanting to tackle these projects themselves. Couple of cases of beer, bring their friends over. Can be a pretty scary prospect at times, can't it?
Well, it's kind of hard to do the fascia board if you don't own a brake, too.
Well, yeah, it's the equipment. And sometimes the procrastination. They'll start the job and 6 months later, they're not even done one wall.
Some places rent the brakes out.
Okay, yeah, that's worth mentioning. Some of the big box stores or some of the specialty rental places, they can rent you the aluminum brake.
Yeah,
Without that, you have no chance at DIY.
but then you got to know how to use it.
Yes, then there's the trade aspect. And of course, you're working at heights, working in the outdoor weather. Homeowners really have to be certain, very certain, that at the end of the day, it's not just a headache, that it ends up being worth it.
Okay, now the tricky part.
Oh, the first piece?
Well, yeah, when you miter the corners, now you got to continue the miter through so it looks right.
So lining it up one wall to the next.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be done right. There is a visual aspect to this, the beauty of it.
Yeah, there is.
I mean, it continues the roof line, all 4 sides of the home. It's got to look nice. If not, there goes your resale value. So Don, how many years for you doing this?
I started my own company back in '82.
Wow. I mean, I can speak certainly for the last 17, definitely give you a reference. 17 years you've been doing all my company's aluminum work. You started with your dad.
You been that long?
Yeah. Your dad was with us the first while.
Yeah. He's the one that taught me the do's and don'ts.
Excellent. Passing down the trades, parent to son. I see no problems fastening in the Bob's new wood fascia.
No, good fascia board. We'll have to compliment him on that.
Well, it should be. We pulled all of it off. Felt like miles of it. Really not worth it for the homeowners out there. Not worth keeping the old woodwork if it's rotted. All the expense, all the materials. It's potential to have everything blow off.
Yeah, first big windstorm or ice storm.
Yeah, the ice adds quite an effect to it. When the trough's empty, I'm sure it's fairly light. When it's full of frozen water,
Yeah.
problematic.
And then you just continue on. Okay, if you want to hand me up that piece of fascia board. Now, once again in the pre-trailer, we pre-bent this and measured it all.
Now that's a nice piece. So that's going to cover the first side.
So we don't have a joint in it. Then once again, nail in the middle.
All right, Don, let's see if you can knock this wall off in a minute or less. Have fun. Don, thank you so much for showing us your craft. We'll be right back to show off the beauty of Don's completed job. Time now for Bob's Top Picks and Bob's Bewares, based on a licensed contractor with over 20 years experience in residential construction. Believe it or not, there are places you can get your hands on plastic soffit. Garbage. Absolute garbage. It's not worth your time, and it's certainly not worth you paying a contractor to install it. Problem is that it hangs, the sun heats it up, it'll create a bow. It'll literally bow at the bottom. You don't need that. You realize the labor's the same. Look at the beautiful job Don did on this home using all aluminum soffit and fascia. If you're tackling a similar project, you want to use aluminum and you want to make sure it's from Gentech. Why Gentech? Because I've been involved with Gentech using their materials for over 20 years. I've never had a failure, never had a warranty issue, never had a customer call me that the color's fading or the color's peeling, chipping, otherwise delaminating. Now remember again, follow us on social media, everywhere from Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, right to X. You want to stay on top of everything to do with home rentals? Then key in Just Ask Bob or Bob Assadourian. We proudly boast the largest home improvement database on the net, hands down, at justaskbob.com, where you can watch over 100 of these home improvement episodes. Pause, fast forward, rewind, learn at your pace. We also proudly host nearly 10 years of radio shows from the former Just Ask Bob radio show edition, not only on one Hamilton radio station, but on two. We host over a decade's worth of DIY home improvement question columns. So we have something for everybody, whether you learn best by watching, reading, or listening. A university of knowledge for the asking and for the taking. We're also kicking off a brand new contest. Brand new, continuing a year from now. Visit our site, fill in the form to enter our contest submission for our newsletter. So you subscribe to our newsletter, it'll be in your inbox every single month. Great way to learn, because we really don't have the time to answer every single question here. And believe it or not, this is the end of our run for Season 8. And I almost forgot, for those of you that aren't techie, you don't want to tweet, you don't want to email, you don't want to look up Bob on social media, absolutely no problem. Bob's old school, and he welcomes all your phone calls. 289-649-0196. Again, that's 289-649-0196, and I will get back to you. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed the show. I look forward to seeing all of you next year. In loving memory of my dear friend Don Wood, always remembered, never forgotten.